Hey guys, Movie Phantom 56 here for another after show, and it's The Flash. It is The Flash after show, season 1, episode 2. That's what we're talking about today. And if you guys have never seen my after shows before, basically what I do is I take a piece of paper, and as I watch the episode, I write down stuff I like about the episode, stuff I don't like about it, and then I kind of talk about my overall thoughts on the episode. So, like I said, this is the Flash after show, and we're talking about season 1, episode 2. And let's talk about the positives. Of course, like usual, there are a lot more positives than there is negatives. Um, First off, basically, what this episode was about, um, it's about this guy. What was his name again? I wrote his name down. Danton Black. His name is Danton Black, and he has the power to basically make multiple versions of himself, create an army of himself, and so Barry Allen and the team have to stop him, and that's basically what the episode's about. Now, what I thought of this episode is the only if I had to describe this episode in one word, emotional. Oh my god, we're 2 episodes into the show and the feels, man. I was ready to shed a tear or two tonight. Um, but let's get down the list here. The first thing I have is when Barry forgets to change his clothes. It's in the beginning of the episode, and he's in his Flash outfit, and he gets called to go to this crime scene. And he runs to the crime scene, and they're like, I wonder when he'll realize he forgot to change clothes. And the next shot, we see Barry, and he's like, oh crap. So, I like that. I like that Barry is that way. He kind of reminds me a little bit of Peter Parker in a way. He's, very nerdy, but also sarcastic, and he has fun being the Flash. And yeah, he kind of reminds me of Peter Parker a little bit. So, um, and when I said this episode was emotional, the flashbacks of when Barry was young. I'm assuming that this is gonna be like the Flash's version of the Island flashbacks in Arrow, kind of showing you a little bit more about the character. Maybe revealing some secrets along the way. Um, I have a feeling that that's what I have a feeling we're gonna see young Barry flashbacks throughout the show, and it's in my positives because I liked them. I liked them a lot, and a couple of them were emotional, like the one where he goes to visit his dad when he first goes to prison. Um, that was just that was powerful. Let's see. There's a scene where his name is Stags, and basically Danton, what was his name, right? Yeah, Danton, and his army of Dantons, um, tries to kill Stags, and one security guard comes up against about 6 of these Danton Black guys, and and all of a sudden Barry Allen's there, and he's not in costume, and he saves the security guard. I think the whole special effects with the Flash and his powers is spectacular. The effects are amazing. I wasn't expecting an effects for a TV show to be that good when it comes to like superhero stuff. But yeah, that effect was awesome. I really enjoyed that. This to me is probably the best part of the show, personally. The dynamic between Barry Allen and Joe. And if you guys don't know, it took me 2 episodes to learn his name. So, Joe is like his father figure. He's the one that took care of him when his dad went to prison. He's Iris's father, and the dynamic between them. That's what's so emotional about this episode. I can't believe it. We're 2 episodes in, and it was that emotional. So many feels, and that dynamic. I love the dynamic between Barry and Joe, and I like their relationship and where they're going with it. So hopefully they keep that up throughout the show. Um, and the villain. another thing I liked about this was the villain himself of Dancing Black. I thought he was an interesting villain. Yeah, uh, like Arrow, they seem to kind of up the ante on the villains. Now, keep in mind, I'm not a Flash fan. I don't know too much about the Flash world. Same thing with Green Arrow, but I'll talk about that more some other time. But the Flash, I don't know too much about the Flash's world. I know the basic stuff with Flash. I don't know many of the Flash villains. Um, so I'm kind of experiencing these villains for the first time on the show. Didn't really care about Flash before. Uh, it's the same thing with Green Arrow. You know, Green Arrow and Flash, I just didn't care for. I don't like the characters. Never read any of their comics. Even in the animated stuff, I don't really care for them. But CW is doing a good job thus far in convincing me to like these characters, especially Green Arrow. And I like that the Flash and Arrow are happening in the same universe. That's awesome to me. But yeah, the villain of Dancing Black, I thought was a pretty cool villain. At least for the second episode. Hopefully, there's going to be a bigger threat out there. Um, so yeah, another thing I liked is when Barry was on the treadmill and they're trying to test. They're trying to do a few tests, and yeah, that scene on the treadmill was cool. It was just a quick little moment, but. And then another moment, like right after that, is when he tries to tell, because I almost said Cyrus. Brother Cyrus. No, Iris. Iris knows something's going on with him, but she doesn't know what. And Barry is afraid to tell her, so he runs around her really, really fast. So she's like pretty much still. And he tells her as he's running around. I thought that was cool. Um, when Wells comes in, Wells is the doctor in the wheelchair who's kind of, helping Barry out. And he comes to visit Staggs right after his assassination attempt. And Staggs looks at Wells and goes, "Don't get up." And the dude's laughing sarcastically, like, "Ha ha ha." I'm like, oh. I started singing Shinedown's "If You Only Knew." Yeah. And speaking of Wells, Dr. Wells, the whole mystery behind him. He's not really confined to a wheelchair. That's his appearance to everybody. And but he's really not in a wheelchair, as we saw at the end of last episode, and we've seen in this episode a little bit. He's not in a wheelchair, so something's going on with him. He's definitely up to something. I don't really have any theories of what it could be yet. We're only 2 episodes in. We don't know too much. I don't have a good solid theory at this point, but when he goes and talks to Staggs towards the end of the episode, I figured that Staggs knew. Because the way they were talking, it looks like that they kind of knew and they were planning against something. And Wells just stand up, and Staggs is just as shocked as the rest of us were. And then Wells kills Staggs, and he's like, "I must keep the Flash safe." I'm like, okay, so you smiled when you read the article in the future that says the Flash disappears, and that was in like 2025. But you want to keep him safe. I want to know what's changing. So I'm very interested to see where that's going to go. As for the negatives, there's only a couple on here. This one is the same as last week. The character of Caitlin, played by Danielle Panabaker, she's one of my negatives. I don't like how bitchy her character is. I understand she's been through some shit. Okay, I get that. And it's just the way her character is. I don't like her until the very, very end of this episode. She's starting to give off a Felicity feel. And I do love Felicity. And if you don't love Felicity, you just need to get the fuck out right now. But yeah, I do love Felicity. Is she my favorite chick on Arrow? No, but she's very, very close. Different discussion for a different time. But towards the end of the episode, she had that Felicity thing going on. She's talking to Barry while he's on his mission. She's tech savvy. She knows all about technology and stuff. She felt like Felicity to me. So I am interested and curious to see what it's going to be like when they do the crossover episodes. And Felicity and Caitlin are together doing their thing. Felicity's helping out Arrow or Oliver, whatever you want to call him, the Hood. and Caitlyn's helping out the Flash. So I'm curious to see how that's going to play out together. But but up until that point, I didn't like the character of Caitlyn, and that's why it's still down in my negatives. I have no problem with Danielle Panabaker. I think her acting's fine. Her performance is fine. It's just the character. And another thing I didn't like about this episode, pretty much the only other thing I didn't like about this episode, is Iris. I am not on board. We're only 2 episodes in. I know it's very, very early to make a clear decision, but as of episode 2, I'm not sold on Iris yet. I don't like Iris so far, and I can't really tell where they're going with her. She just feels kind of there, like she feels forced. If that makes sense, that's the feeling that I get anyway. I don't know about you guys, but yeah, the character of Iris feels very forced to me. I mean, it's fine because you do have a history with Barry with her, and you know all the flashback stuff when they were living together. I can see that makes sense. That's a good purpose. But when she's older and you know she's in real time, present day, I don't see the point in her character exactly just yet. I can't tell where they're taking her. Um, so the actress is fine too. It's the same thing with Danielle Panabaker with the Caitlyn character. The acting is fine. I have no problem with that. It's just the direction and you know what they're doing with her. But other than those two things, those are just minor things, really. Really good episode, very emotional. I really couldn't believe it because we're only 2 episodes in. I'm like, wow, they're starting off the emotions and the feels early. So, well done to you guys. Did you guys see season 1, episode 2 of The Flash yet? I hope so because you're watching the after show, and I spoil everything in these after shows. So, uh, hopefully you guys have seen the episode. If you did see it, comment down below. Let me know what you guys thought about the episode, and yeah, what are your guys' predictions on like next week's episode? Do you have any yet? Because I don't really have any yet, really. Um, so yeah, guys, that's all I can say for today, and I'll see you guys in the next video.